Hi, this is Larry with ManCave Mayhem. Today we are working on the 2000 Harley Davidson Sportster S or Sport model. This thing came into my possession recently and it's at its 10,000 mile service, so kind of going through everything, trying to make sure that everything's up on it. I've already done the oil change on it. We're now moving to the brakes. These brakes haven't been even touched in 24 years, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of go through the brakes on it and show you a little bit of how I do this. I'm not perfect, so if I make some mistakes, you guys feel free to leave some comments below and just don't beat me up too bad. But anyhow, we're going to start off with the front brakes on this, and I'll show you guys how I bleed it with the power bleed or the Mighty Vac, and we'll start out right here. If you haven't yet, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. Check us out at Instagram at ManCave_Mayhem. Now let's get on with the video. Make sure what type of brake fluid you have. And this particular brake fluid is .5 for this bike. .5 is a silicone-based brake fluid. Happen to have some right here. And anyhow, being silicone-based, it is hydrophobic. So it does not attract water, so that's a good thing. It also doesn't corrode stuff on your bike. I'm still careful. I don't like spilling it on anything. Makes a big mess, so we'll go ahead and set the bike up for that. And usually what I like to do is put a towel around the brake reservoir here, and that's what we're going to do. Kind of as much as I can around the brake reservoir. We're going to go ahead and get a Phillips screwdriver and pop this cap. The cap facing downward. You don't want any dirt or grime on it. Now we're gonna look at this fluid. It looks kind of bad, not terrible, but it's definitely dark in color. So what we want to do now is we want to kind of make a note of the level of fluid that we have in there. So when we take all this fluid out, that we put back in the same amount. So we're going to get this dirty fluid out of here. It won't hurt anything as long as you're not grabbing the brakes. It won't suck any air in. So we'll get all this fluid out and then we'll move to the next step. Reservoir's down and empty. Now I kind of like to go in there with a paper towel and kind of clean up just to make sure there isn't any debris in there of any kind. I don't see any debris in there and it looks like it's going to be pretty clean, but I'm going to mop that up with a paper towel and then we'll add some clean fluid to that before we start the bleed. All right, it's always good to wipe these out. You can see some of the grime that I got out of there. It was a little dirty. This is the fluid, and you can see the kind of the crud that's settled down in the bottom of that. So we got that wiped out. Now we're going to put the new fluid in and get to pumping. We're going to put a little more fluid in the brake reservoir, and then we're going to move to the wheel cylinder and start bleeding it. Once we've bled the first wheel cylinder, we'll move over to the second one. Now, if you notice too, that .5 is kind of a pretty purple color, and that's the way that fluid is. You don't want to get the .5.1. That's not the same fluid, so just make sure that you get .5 if your bike specifies .5. They all specify different ones, and different Harleys are different. It depends if you have ABS brakes or standard brakes, and some of them take .4 and 3. So we just don't, I just don't assume that the bike you have has .5. So anyhow, just check it, make sure. Now, since I don't have a buddy to help me bleed this bike, I'm going to use a Mighty Vac to bleed the brakes on this. If you have somebody there to help you, that's great. You can do it the old-fashioned way, pump the brakes and have somebody check it down below. But the way I'm doing it here is I'm using a Mighty Vac. So we're going to start on the farthest caliper from the reservoir. And there's different schools of thought on that. I'm going to go ahead and give this a try and see how it works out. Because this is a Sportster S, it does have the dual front brake setup. So I'm starting with the furthest brake away. I just pulled the cap off of this. And now we are going to use a 3/8 wrench, and I'm using actually a brake line wrench, and we're putting it on there. All right, since I'm by myself today, I'm going to use this fluid extractor. My Mighty Vac's taking a crap, so we're going to go ahead and try this fluid extractor to get this brake fluid drained out. Again, I'm by myself, so I'm going to try and give this a shot. Hopefully this will work. They usually work pretty good, but we'll give it a try. This end goes on here. We create a vacuum with this. We break the vacuum with this, and it should draw the fluid out into this container right here where it can be properly disposed of. So. All right, now that we got the furthest side from the reservoir tightened up, now we'll move to the closest side. All right, once you get that second side done, button things up, get the top back on. You can also put a band around this just to make sure you got all the air bubbles out. Strap that down and just have that there for maybe overnight, and that'll help open that up. And then any small air bubbles will migrate up to the reservoir, and that will give you better braking, and that'll kind of mitigate some of those little tiny microscopic bubbles that get left behind. So that's basically the service on the front brakes. I'll have another video soon on how to do the rear brakes on this bike. If you haven't yet, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. Check us out at Instagram at ManCave_Mayhem. And just remember, folks, I'm just a man in a cave causing mayhem. Thanks again for watching.